Welcome to Box Office Recaps. Today we are recapping a horror and mystery movie called Sinister, which was released in 2012. Spoilers ahead. The film opens with Super 8 footage depicting a family of 4 standing beneath a tree with hoods over their heads and nooses around their necks. Unseen figures saw through a tree branch, acting as a counterweight, causing them all to be hanged. Months later, washed-up true crime writer Ellison Oswalt moves into a new house, the murdered family's home, with his wife, Tracy, and their 2 children, Ashley and Trevor. Ashley, a gifted artist who is allowed to paint on the walls of her bedroom. While unloading the moving boxes, the sheriff comes to visit Ellison, asking Ellison to leave as soon as possible, to which Ellison denies and offers the sheriff a signed copy of his book, which the sheriff turns down. They then discuss the case of the missing girl, who the sheriff assumes is dead, and Ellison disagrees with the officer. He believes that the girl is missing and there is no sign of her death, and believes that he may be able to uncover the hidden truth in his book. Sheriff asks Ellison to stop investigating for his book and denies any help in writing his book. It is revealed only Ellison is aware that the house they are moving into was the crime scene. Ellison intends to use the murders as the basis for his new book in hopes that his research will turn up the fate of the family's 5th member, a little girl named Stephanie, who disappeared following the murders. Ellison, while exploring the attic, finds a box that contains a projector and several reels of standard 8mm footage that are each labeled as innocent home movies. While having dinner, Trevor shows interest in Ellison's book, but Tracy stops him from reading them. After having dinner, everyone else goes to bed except Ellison, who watches the standard 8mm film he got from the attic. Ellison discovers that they are snuff movies depicting families being murdered. He discovers The Hanging Family, Family Hanging Out 11. From the beginning of the movie, after watching the movie, he goes to check the tree where the family was hung. When he moves back into the house, he hears the door moving, goes towards the sound to investigate, and finds Ashley, who is lost in the new house. He puts Ashley into bed, then goes back to look at the other films. He finds out that they are similar to the first film, which depicts families being murdered in various ways, including having their throats slit in bed in Sleepy Time 98, being burnt to death in a car in Barbecue 79, being drowned in their pool in Pool Party 66, and being run over by a lawnmower in Lawn Work 86. After watching the film Barbecue, he calls the police but decides to cut the call when they ask him about his emergency because he wants to uncover the truth himself. He then hears a noise outside his office. Assuming it's Ashley, he goes out to check it out, but Ashley is in her bed, so he checks around the house and hears a voice coming from the attic. While moving around the house, he finds Trevor inside a moving box shouting in his sleep, having night terrors. This wakes up Tracy. Ellison and Tracy take him outside to calm him down. The next morning, Ellison speaks to Trevor about his night terror over breakfast. As the family left, Ellison decides to watch the film Pool Party, the drowning film. The drowning film proves especially disturbing for Ellison after he notices a demonic figure watching the drownings from the bottom of the pool before turning to look at the camera. As he is looking at the demonic figure, the projector catches fire, and due to that, Ellison decides to convert them into digital film. He starts to look at them on his laptop, and while he is looking through the films, Tracy and Trevor come back home, arguing about Trevor drawing a tree with people hanging from it, depicting the death of the murdered family. Tracy warns Ellison about the adverse effect his book is having on the family. Ellison then returns to watching the films, and when watching Sleepy Time, he is having a hard time watching it, as it depicts the gruesome murder of a child. While watching the film, he finds a strange painted symbol, and he discovers a link to a murder in 1998 in St. Louis family in the film with the missing child, named Christopher Miller. While he is doing that, suddenly, Ellison hears the same voice from the attic again, and the lights go out. He turns on his mobile flash and goes to investigate it. While looking at one room after another, he suddenly hears a loud noise and grabs a knife. He goes to check the attic with the knife but gets scared, shouts and drops the knife as the attic door closes. He inspects the box that contained the snuff films on the ground as it moves. As he lifts it open with a rod, a snake appears. As the snake leaves, he inspects the underside of the lid of the box containing the films. Ellison discovers numerous crude drawings depicting the murders, along with crude drawings of the demonic figure identified as Mr. Boogie. As he is about to leave, the roof collapses, bringing him down with it. Later, Ellison gets first aid for his wounds and reports footsteps in his attic to a local deputy. Ellison asks the deputy for details for the other cases as the deputy wanted to help. A few hours later, Ellison starts looking into the drawings on the box cover with the snuff films to find a correlation between the various murders depicted in the snuff films. He finds that the weird symbol and the demonic figure appeared in all the films. While looking at the pictures, Ellison receives a call from the deputy and gets the information he asked for about the other murders. As he is processing that information, the demonic figure on his laptop looks at him and then turns back to normal. He then gets a video of him falling from the attic. When he plays it, he sees multiple hands pushing him down. Afraid, he slams his laptop. At night, the projector starts playing a film, and Ellison goes to check it out. He is shocked by seeing the projector playing the hanging film. He turns off the projector and looks outside, seeing the demonic figure appear in the bushes. Ellison jumps in fear and goes out to investigate it with a bat. He finds Trevor outside having his night terrors. He takes him back inside and goes back to retrieve his flashlight and bat. He finds a dog and gets scared. As he is trying to retrieve his bat, 5 figures appear behind him, and the dog walks away. Ellison then rushes back in the house. Once inside, Ellison and Tracy have an argument about their family and the book he is writing, but it gets resolved. The next morning, the deputy visits Ellison to give him a file regarding the case. Ellison then explains to the deputy about the murders depicted in the films took place at different times, beginning in the 1960s and in different cities across the country. He also learns that the families were all drugged before being killed, and that a child from each family went missing following every murder. The deputy refers Ellison to a local professor, Jonas. That night, Ellison watches lawn work, and unable to stomach the film, he then contacts Jonas, whose expertise is the occult and demonic phenomena, to decipher the symbol in the films. Jonas tells Ellison that the symbols are that of a pagan deity named Buggle, who would kill entire families so that he could take their children into his realm and consume their souls. John asks for more information, everything that Ellison has. Ellison gets up to the projector, playing the hanging family again. He shuts it down. Scared, he grabs a bat and starts looking around the house. Decaying bodies of the missing children suddenly appeared behind him, but he did not notice them. The projector starts to play again, and he shuts it down again. He goes to check on his kids. He sees them laying down, presumably sleeping, but it is revealed that Trevor is looking at a corpse of a missing child drawing a hanging tree picture on the wall. Ellison sits on the couch till the morning, unable to sleep. Sometime later, Ellison is talking to the deputy about the paranormal activities in this house. Deputy finds out that only Ellison is aware of the house being a crime scene. Deputy tells Ellison to pause his investigation to clear his mind. Later, Tracy calls Ellison complaining about Ashley painting on the walls outside her room. Ashley tells him that Stephanie did not want the painting in her brother's room. This leads to Tracy finding out about the house being a murder scene. Tracy storms into her room as Ellison follows, and they have an argument over Ellison hiding the fact that the house was a murder scene and him ignoring his family for his book. That night, after tucking Ashley into bed, Tracy finds Ellison falling asleep watching his interview on TV. She takes him to bed. Ellison is suddenly woken up by the sound of the film projector running and goes up to the attic wondering and confused by the sound. There, he finds the missing children watching one of the films. Buggle suddenly appears on camera before physically appearing before Ellison. Ellison falls down from the attic stairs. The projector and Super 8 film drops from the attic. A terrified Ellison takes the projector and the films to the backyard and burns them. Then, he wakes his family to tell them that they are moving back to their old house. As he speeds away to leave the town, he is stopped by the sheriff. He tells him that he is leaving town and won't write the book. He is left without a ticket. At his old home, Ellison receives a message from Professor Jonas, who sends him scans of historical drawings associated with Buggle. After looking at that, he calls Jonas and finds out that each drawing had been partially destroyed because ancient cultures believed that Buggle lived within the images and that they acted as portals between his realm and the mortal world. During this time, the deputy tries calling several times, but Ellison never answers. While taking a moving box in the old house's attic, Edison discovers the projector and films, along with a new envelope of film labeled Extended Endings. The next time the deputy calls while Ellison is assembling the films, he answers. The deputy informs him that he has discovered a link between each of the murders. Every family had previously lived in the house where the last murder took place, and each new murder occurred shortly after the family moved into their new residence. By moving back to his old home after living at the site of the previous murders, Ellison had placed himself and his family in line to be the next victims. Ellison then watches the footage. He finds it depicts the missing children coming on screen following each murder, revealing themselves to be the killers before suddenly disappearing. Before he can react, Ellison becomes lightheaded. Inspecting his coffee cup, he finds a note reading, "Good night, Daddy," and a green liquid inside the cup before losing consciousness. Ellison awakens to find himself, his wife, and his son bound and gagged. Ashley approaches holding the 8mm camera and promises him that she will make him famous again. Ashley then proceeds to murder her family with an axe, using their blood to paint images of cats, dogs, and unicorns on the walls. Her work complete. Ashley adds a new drawing to the box lid, complete with drawing of Mr. Boogie. She views the Super 8 film of her murders, which concludes with an image of the missing children watching her. Buggle appears, green blood covering his hands, causing the children to flee. He lifts Ashley into his arms and disappears into the film with her. The film concludes with an image of the box of films in the Oswald family's attic, now accompanied by a reel labeled House Painting 12. Buggle suddenly appears, warning that the viewers are next. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to our channel for more recaps and hit the bell icon for notifications.